Hi,
Hi,
Sadhika.
am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible. Am I audible to you?
Perfect.
All right, great. So thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us and share your journey from UPSC aspirant to calligraphy artist, handwriting artist, doodler. So how did that happen? Do you just want to start off with that and tell everyone why, how, and what the process was like?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for the kind invitation. I was very surprised with the fact that you tracked me down and you figured out that I'm an ex-UPSC aspirant and you sent me a request. I think that was very nice, and I am thoroughly impressed with this whole initiative of yours called Shows
Hmm.
Beyond UPSC. And so, thank you for your invite, first of all. Secondly, I do want to start with a little disclaimer that even though my views can be slightly critical on UPSC, I hold all government institutions and especially UPSC in the highest regard, and nothing but respect for the bureaucrats who are making amazing changes at the ground level, right? So,
Hmm.
thank you for your question, and I do want to start with a little background and how I transitioned from UPSC to what I'm doing today. So I gave 2 years of my life to UPSC. Out of that, one was a very serious attempt in 2016. So
All
2014
right.
to 15, and then 15 to 16, those 2 years I dedicated to UPSC. Out of that, the 16th one attempt was more serious. So it was during that time, during the preparation of UPSC, and before that, I would like to clarify that I am a graduate in economics, and after my college got over in 2013, I thought I'll take a gap year, prepare for some exams. एक साल में कुछ ना कुछ तो हो ही जाएगा, and
Hmm.
I will study master, that do something, you know. But I
Yeah.
think life had other plans for me. So in 2015, I picked up calligraphy as a hobby, and I got some calligraphy pens, brush pens. I used to scribble at the back of the newspaper when I used to take them to my coaching center here in Mukherjee Nagar. So whenever I'd be bored, I will just scribble ABC and just practice
Hmm.
calligraphy. That's how it started. Up until 2016-17 also, I had no intention of making it a full-time career. Truth be
Hmm.
told, I had kept my UPSC books till 2018 with me, whereas I started Delhi Doodler in 2016. So it's really not that easy or simple to come out of that UPSC psychology,
Right.
the chakravyuh of sorts that it creates in your head.
Hmm.
So I started it as a hobby, and the idea was just to have fun on Instagram, make some art, dedicate some time to pursuing something that makes me happy rather than following
Hmm.
something that my parents think or the society thinks I should be doing. You know how it is normally with,
Yeah.
especially if you are a bright kid in school, everyone has certain expectations from you. So for me, it was like, okay, I am so done with everything else. Now I
Hmm.
need to follow this hobby. But one thing led to another, and as luck would have it, Delhi Doodler caught on with people because what I was doing at that time was quite different for the Indian audience. So everyone really enjoys, my calligraphy, and people started asking if I could teach them, and people started giving me
Hmm.
little work here and there. Can you make an art frame for me, or can you, just contribute in some way? And then brand work started following after 2018. 2018, 2019. So it's been a slow journey, it's been a very organic journey, it's been very no strategy really in place, but it is what it is. And like I told you, right, from scribbling at the back of the newspaper to being featured in both of them, the Hindu and the Indian Express,
Hmm.
I think nothing can define full circle better than that.
Hmm.
So so
Right.
I think that's a little bit about my journey, so to speak. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. And how do you, is this all self-learned? Do you have any additional resources that you fell back upon? How do you pick up calligraphy and
Okay.
art?
So distinct when I started practicing calligraphy. Instagram used to allow only 15-second videos, short videos
Hmm.
at that time. So I used to learn from them. I used to follow a lot of calligraphers from outside India because that's where
All right.
brush calligraphy was more famous and it had started. So I started following them, trying to figure out where I'm going wrong, what am I doing right, etc. Largely,
Hmm.
I'm self-taught. I have taken workshops more recently during the pandemic from a couple of artists outside India, and but largely it's all self-taught. I think um, calligraphy is not something that you cannot learn yourself if you have a little bit of a little knack for detail, a little knack for design, a little knack for just observation. I think you can learn calligraphy yourself. Of course, teaching it, learning it from somebody else who's more
Hmm.
experienced will just expedite that process for you and make it
Right.
much quicker. So yeah, largely self-taught.
Right. All right. So coming back to the UPSC bit a little bit, since you mentioned UPSC psychology, would you want to elaborate on what that is, what that was to you, and are you carrying a little bit of that psychology, or is that something you've totally given up?
I think I was carrying it up until 2018, till the time I had my
Okay.
books, and that's why I decided to give them away because I figured that कहीं तक पहुंचने के लिए कहीं से निकलना जरूरी होता है, right? So you have
Hmm.
to take that step, and until and unless you give everything you have to your plan A, it won't work, right? So if you keep
Hmm.
on thinking that someday I might go back, someday I might go back to UPSC or SSC or any of those exams, then it's not fair to yourself, it's not fair to the journey, the creative journey that you're on. The
Hmm.
UPSC psychology or the Chakravyuh that I was talking about, and I was just mentioning it on my story, there's something called as the sunk cost fallacy. I was just
Hmm.
reading about it yesterday in the context of relationships, actually. Very interesting. That, why do people not end relationships and why do they find it so hard
Hmm.
to end relations? Even when they know that they're in a toxic relationship, or
Right.
it's beneficial for both parties to just end it there and move on. So sunk cost fallacy is when you're following a strategy, but yeah, you just can't seem to abandon that strategy even though it's very clear that the
Hmm.
benefits of abandoning it far outweigh the benefits of continuing it still,
Yeah.
only because you've invested so much time and effort into making that fulfilling that strategy. I think UPSC preparation is one of the best examples of it. The reason why people do not come out of that Chakravyuh so easily is because
Hmm.
they have invested a lot of time, effort, money in preparing for UPSC.
Right.
You already know this. Coaching centers, they charge. At that time, I paid like 1 lakh rupees or something,
Hmm.
for UPSC coaching, plus the transportation, the books, etc. All of that is separate. So it's a huge cost. So people think that okay, इस साल नहीं हुआ, 10 marks से रह गए, कोई बात नहीं, अगले साल फिर attempt कर लेंगे.
Right.
But what they don't realize is that you're not the only one who's left behind with the 10 marks by 10
Hmm.
marks. There are 1 lakh other people also who gave the exam with you, and they couldn't make it by a very small margin. So they are also going to
Going
reattempt
to.
probably
Yeah.
next year. So the competition just keeps increasing year on year, for UPSC.
Hmm.
And it's actually quite clear that you can abandon this strategy and you can move on to something, learn a new skill, and let your life take a whole new course, but you won't do it because it's that safe psychology, it's that safe mentality that we're brought up with, in especially in India, that it's a government job, you're
Hmm.
seeking a government job, it will give you job
Security.
security, you know
Yeah.
that. But I don't think you have a job security even if you have a government job. If you're replaceable in your job, if anybody else can do what you're doing, then you have no job security. then it's just false. It's just in your head, right?
Hmm.
So I think, given given the times that we're living in, and especially after the 2 years that we've all been through, I think it's very clear that you don't need to have a lot of investment. You don't need to put a lot of heavy investment or time into anything, especially not like 4 attempts, 5 attempts. You're giving away 5 years of your
Hmm.
life to something. In 5 years, you can do so much with your life. You can become a millionaire probably.
Okay. Hmm.
So I think from my perspective, what makes sense is you learn a core skill which is in demand these days. It could be content writing, it could be digital marketing, it could be anything,
Hmm.
photography, food photography for that matter, product photography, graphic design. These are skills that you can learn and you can do very well at, even if you give them just 6 months to 8 months of your life. Once you do
Right.
that, and a simple Google search will tell you that these are the skills which are highly in demand right now, which means people are on the lookout for digital marketeers, people are on the lookout for content writers, right?
Hmm.
All you need to do is actively pursue that and give it your everything. So, yeah, I think that
Right.
pretty much answers your
So
question.
true. Yes. So, you also mentioned earlier when we spoke about having this Bipin Chandra book still with you. So, do you want to tell everyone why you still have it with you? Since you've given
So
away the rest and you've kept that.
I really enjoyed learning during that course of
Hmm.
1 year, 2 years of my preparation. Don't get me wrong. I just did not enjoy giving the exam to prove it, but I did
Hmm.
enjoy learning the different courses, psychology, a little bit of I mean, we studied a little bit of botany also, and polity, of course, history. So I just kept those two books with me even after donating everything else. One is Lakshmi Kant for polity, and one is Bipin Chandra for history. I actually really like those two books, and I thought that maybe at some point of my time later on, if I get a little bit time to myself, I am going to go back and read Bipin Chandra even more thoroughly than I did. I just really like that book. I don't think there's any other reason. Or if you go deeper into psychology, maybe I'm still trying to hold on to a little bit of that of
Right.
that past that I had. But I think for the large part of the reason is that I really enjoyed just reading that book.
Right. Great. I also still have the Bipin Chandra, by the way. So I think, yeah, that seems to
It
be
is a nice book.
the
It is a
thing.
nice book.
Correct. Right. All right. So you also mentioned your parents. Now I wanted to know how it was speaking with them, convincing them about your path or your transition, what you wanted to do.
It was difficult initially because Indian parents do not agree to let their children become artists, and
Hmm.
because they have been conditioned, and they have been also brought up with the same mentality that art is not a stable career, and what you
Right.
need, especially as a girl, is to take up a career which is more stable, financially secure,
Hmm.
so that you can have a good life. So it was difficult initially to convince them, but when they saw that I was very happy with what I'm doing, and not just happy, I'm also getting accolades for it, I'm getting featured in the newspaper, and people are loving what I'm doing, and they saw that okay, she's constantly at it, she's not going to give up. So that's when they gave up, and they were
Hmm.
like, okay, while we are at it and while you're at it, we might as well just support you. So now they really like what I'm doing. They've been very supportive, very kind, and at any point of time, if I need any help, I can always count on them. Like my mom, she used to handle the logistics when I was working out of my home. She used to just handle all the couriers going out, and help me.
Hmm.
My sister used to help me with the packaging, etc. So I think it's all about just believing in what you're doing and actually proving to your parents. I know it can be easier said than done, but I think all they need is to see results. So the day they see results, the day they see that, okay, for the last 6 months or 8 months your income has been pretty much stable or growing, then they don't mind, I think, supporting you. A lot of
Hmm.
people, they quit their job or they quit their UPSC prep while they still haven't figured out what else to do, or how the next step. So I think
Right.
if you have parents who are not very convinced about your strategy, then please show them, work very hard to prove them wrong. And I think for parents, nothing makes them happier than being proved wrong by their kids, I think.
Hmm.
So it's just about results. At the end of the day, that's what they want, that's what you want.
Right. That's very well said. I think for a lot of people, because we hear a lot of stories and we've come across a lot of people talking about how difficult it is to talk to parents. So I think there is something there for everyone to pick up, maybe take advice from, or use it as a tip to speak to their parents.
Absolutely.
All right, moving to what I wanted to know about what you're taking from your prep into your work right now. So any kind of quirk, any habit, any characteristic, anything you develop during your preparation time that you still, consistently utilize somewhere, or it's just become, part of your identity.
Right. I think learning and preparing for UPSC definitely teaches you the importance of self discipline and self motivation. Because even if
Hmm.
you join a coaching center, at the end of the day, you have to come back and dedicate those 8 to 10 hours of self study
Right.
that everyone advises. So I think the importance of self discipline is very, very pertinent. It's very important in the field of a freelancer, any freelancer, whether you're a calligrapher, artist, anybody who's into freelancing, because there is no rigid institution, there are no boundaries. So as long as you are self-disciplined and self-motivated, these are the only two things that can take you further in your goal in your life, right? So I think that is something that I still hold on to. I try my best to be as self-disciplined and self-motivated as possible. About quirks, I think I'm very used to making to-do lists and
Hmm.
making a list of what all to study. I used to do that. So I'm doing 1 hour polity, 1 hour history, have to study the newspaper early in the morning, have to read it and make notes. So I think that is
Hmm.
something I still do. The first thing I do in the morning is prepare a to-do list, or the last thing at night is to prepare a to-do list for the next day, so that I'm prepared, what to do, and I don't just wander around aimlessly in the whole day. That's something I do. And taking notes is something I still do. If I Even though it's probably meant for leisure, it's not a very heavy read, I will still sit with a pencil in my hand with a book, because I'm just used to underlining important things. So I think that's something that I've
Hmm.
carried on after the UPSC prep also. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So to-do lists and underlining things along with self-discipline. Great. All right. Also, a little bit about freelancing now. So, do you think aspirants who are currently probably preparing in their initial attempts or even in their latter attempts, can they look at freelancing as an option, or how should they go about it, whatever area they're choosing to freelance in? Do you have any sort of tips there, or any experiences that you want to share on how they can, do it side by side, even if they are looking to give or take the exams?
I think that's a very good question. But the thing is, with UPSC preparation, it's very hardcore. Like, you have to give it at least 10 to 12 hours every day. Now, if you're
Hmm.
already giving something 10 to 12 hours a day, I do not expect you to give another 2 3 hours and pursue a core skill side by side, like digital marketing or content writing that I was talking about.
Hmm.
Let's say, even if you decide to take up a short course, a 6 month course, it's quite impractical, I think, to do it along with your preparation. However, what I did and what you can probably do, or anybody else can do, is after you have given your preliminary exam and you have figured out that you have some sense that I may not be able to crack this attempt, um, give yourself just 6 months of time, learn that skill that I was talking about, learn two skills,
Hmm.
I think it's not very easy to, it's not very
Right.
practical to learn something along with UPSC, unless it's something fun and therapeutic like calligraphy, which I was doing. But again, after my
Hmm.
prelims, I had to give it some time to pick up, right, and refine my skills. So, one strategy could be that you give yourself a timeline of 6 months or 8 months or 1 year and just convince your parents
Hmm.
that I need this time for myself, right? That's one strategy. And in that 1 year, give it your 100%, 1000% to that skill. Learning that skill, make a good LinkedIn portfolio, make a good Instagram account, reach out to people who are probably in the need for that core skill. Like, every day we get messages from people about content. Do you require a website developer? Do you require a content writer? Do cold emailing, send out cold emails, cold DMs. Instagram
Hmm.
is a great place to network and get work these days. List yourself on multiple websites. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. I think the biggest mistake that people do as freelancers is putting their eggs in one basket. Only Instagram or only LinkedIn will not suffice. You have to diversify, and put yourself out there on every possible platform. Have your website, have Instagram, have LinkedIn, send out cold emails,
Hmm.
show something to people. Even if you have to work for free for the first few clients, do that. Tell them that I will make you a great content strategy, I will make you a good social media strategy. I know I'm a newbie, but believe in me and I'm willing to give you a discount or whatever. Do whatever it takes. As long as you're convinced that this is what I want to do, nobody can stop you, right? I am a firm believer, and I think my journey is a very good example of the fact that you can turn your life around 360 degrees. Even if it takes 5 years or 4 years, it is worth it. It is worth the struggle.
Hmm.
I have made peace with the fact that being an artist is not easy. It's an act of courage. It takes time. You have to plant little seeds every day. You have to put in the
Hmm.
practice work pretty much every day. Trust the process. And after 4 or 5 years, the results that starts giving you, the kind of trust you've developed with your community, the kind of networks that you've built, then they start paying off. So if
Right.
you don't have that level of patience, I'm not saying that you become an artist straight away, but if you don't have that level of patience, pick up any other skill. And 1 year is a very good time to hone that skill, to prove to your parents that you can do something else. So I think just give
Right.
1 year of time to yourself. If you can give 2 years or 3 years, or it's crazy, some people give 5 years of their time to UPSC. I mean, if you don't
Hmm.
take a chance on yourself, then who will? So it's just that you have to believe in what you do.
Very interesting. So you also said that in 1 year you can transform everything. I think that is something that a lot of ex-aspirants would want to hear and should be hearing this. That 1 year really is all it takes sometimes to transform your
And
life
just
360
see the
degrees.
last 2 years of the pandemic, a perfect example of how 1 year can actually transform
Yeah.
lives for the good
Hmm.
and for the bad for a lot of people, right? So a lot of people who were already into digital courses saw a huge boom during that
Hmm.
time when the pandemic started. People were crazily looking for online courses at that time. So it's just about planting seeds. Maybe at that point when they had launched the course, they did not see that kind of response. But you never
Hmm.
know what happens. So in 1 year, 2 years, I've seen people growing their business like crazy. So I think 1 year is the best time to give to yourself. That's the
Right.
least you can do.
I think a lot of people need to hear this, especially ex-aspirants, because of the whole journey being a little tumultuous. So I wanted to know through your journey, since you've always been that you've been doing art, did that in any way, or do you believe that in any form helped your mental health? Did it have positive impacts on how you dealt with your UPSC preparation. Do you think it was like this safe space and a good space for your mental well-being as well?
Definitely, and that's the reason I picked up art, because I was thoroughly confused. I was depressed. I was, in a very low state of being. When I was
Hmm.
preparing for UPSC, because it takes so much effort, man. It takes so much
Hmm.
life out of you. It's not a joke at all. I used to, so that's why I picked up calligraphy, because the movement of the strokes, and with each stroke you're kind of meditating in a sense. It really
Right.
helped me calm down, and it really helped my nerves calm down. So that's the reason I picked up that hobby, and you should too. I mean, everyone who's preparing for UPSC, do not stop living your life just because you're preparing for the exam. Don't lock yourself in a room and stop living your life or doing things that you enjoy, because this exam does have that mentality. It does have that tendency to take a lot from you as it is. So do not stop listening
Hmm.
to music. Do not stop going out for movies or going out to cafes with your friends, catching up with them. Do not stop cooking food if you really like that, just because you have to give time to UPSC. Make time for yourself. Please do that, because otherwise you will feel very empty inside. And I've seen people. There was this series that came out on YouTube, right? The UPSC Aspirant. I think
Yeah.
it's called
Seriously.
Aspirants.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So at the end of that series, the protagonist does feel very empty inside, even though he had cleared UPSC, he reached exactly where
Hmm.
he wanted to. But that feeling of emptiness then haunts you for the rest of your life, because
Right.
it, and you will keep looking out for a reason to get over it. You will keep looking out for a reason to figure out why are you feeling so aimless, because all your life, all your energy, all your good vibes have been taken away by that tedious process of preparation.
Hmm.
So always have one hobby in side by side. If you like playing guitar, you like listening to music, anything of that sort, please pursue your hobbies. Do not give your life to UPSC. Give it your 100%, but only till the point that it requires. And speaking about that series, Aspirant, there's some very interesting scene that happened, and I really, that touched me. And that's
Hmm.
that's the main reason why I think a lot of people do not clear UPSC. I could be wrong, I could be way off the mark, but a lot of people don't make it, or they end up feeling disappointed because, or empty, is because they do not know their why are
Hmm.
they giving that exam in the first place. The scene that I'm talking about is between the protagonist and his girlfriend. So I think he just casually asks her, so do you have a plan B? And she says, no, I don't. So he's like, if you clear UPSC, what will you do? She says, I will rescue children from human trafficking. So he said, अगर नहीं हुआ तो तुम क्या करोगी? She said, मैं तब भी, I will rescue children from human trafficking.
Hmm.
So she was very clear in her why. Her reason of giving that exam was very clear. Her goal was very focused. She said, I will open an NGO, I will volunteer somewhere, I will do whatever it takes. But my goal, my reason for preparing and giving this exam is because I want to rescue children from
Hmm.
why is not something crazy like you just want that lal batti on your gadi, or you just want
Right.
that fancy nameplate or office. Those things will lose their charm in a month or two, in a year or two. What will you do after that? So you need a solid why to prepare for UPSC, for sure. I think that's a
Hmm.
very important thing to learn, not just for people who are preparing for UPSC, but everyone in general. Have a why, have a core
Hmm.
reason of why you're doing what you're doing. Even if you're a product photographer, even if you are a calligrapher, know your why are you existing, and why are you doing this? I am
Any
doing this.
suggestions on how to find out your why? How did you find out? How did you chance upon what your why was?
So this somebody asked me this question in 2018 when I was giving an interview that, what do you
Okay.
expect people to take away from Delhi Doodler? So my answer was,
Hmm.
and it still remains, that I want when people visit Delhi Doodler, I want them to smile. And I want them to look at my feed. I want them to see the reels and the videos and the colorful artworks that I post there, and just leave with a sense of, or with a sense of calmness, or with a thought, or with a smile on their face. It still
Hmm.
remains the same, even though there have been multiple layers of whys which I've added now. I think another reason why Delhi Doodler exists is to prove to people that you can flip your life 360 degrees, and you can pursue a creative hobby even if you do not come from a creative background. You Even if you at some point of time you felt like an utter loser, you can still become a somebody. you know
Hmm.
Teledoodler also exists to serve people. It also exists to make artwork for people, engrave for people, write poems for people, just spread joy. I think that's a very nice why for me. I think Delhi Doodler also exists to kind of motivate women that you can become financially
Hmm.
independent. You can. There are a lot of women who come to my workshops, and they learn calligraphy in the hope that they can, also make it a business, or a career. And I think it also serves that purpose. This is a why that I did not choose, but it just happened along the way. It snowballed. So you have to
Right.
begin with one reason, and life will keep giving you reasons to follow through. I think, to answer your question, how do you find your purpose? How do you find your why? It's a very philosophical question at some level. It's not something you figure out in one day, but you do have to
Hmm.
follow some process. You do have to put in a little bit work from your side with the best intention possible. People find it
Hmm.
crazy and they ask me, how do you get business? How do you get in touch with clients? Trust me, I do not send a single email or a pitch to anybody. I suck at that. I already know it. I've come to make peace with it. There are very few times that I've actually sent pitches and they did not make it, right? Maybe two or three times in this whole 6 years. So I have come to
Hmm.
accept the fact that I need to just trust the universe to connect me with the right people at the right time for the right
Yes.
purpose. What I am good at is creating art. I'm going to do that with the best intention for Delhi Doodler as Delhi Doodler, and I just leave everything else to God. I leave everything else to this beautiful community that I've created. Believe me, 70% of my work comes through word of mouth, through people recommending me to their clients, to their friends and family, to brands. Last year, I got to work with Christian Louboutin, and I may be mispronouncing their name. Please forgive me. But I get a DM
Hmm.
some days before Diwali, and then I asked her, "How did you get my reference?" She said, "I got your reference from one of your students who you taught some 3 4 years ago." I found that to be so
Hmm.
heartening. You never know. So you just, like I said in the beginning, you have to keep planting seeds. Must have,
Right.
connected with that girl at some level, and she must have seen some potential that she recommended me to such a big brand. It's a matter of huge honor. So keep planting seeds, keep putting in your good work and good effort with the best intention, and leave everything else to the universe. I know it sounds more very philosophical and slightly impractical, but it's worked for me. So this is the strategy that I follow.
Very nice. If anyone has any questions, we could take up something from the people who joined in. Or I also had one question that I wanted to ask before we wrap up and before we come to closing remarks. Is what was the difficult part of your transition? Like, what was it that was very difficult? Like, for some of us, getting out of the shell that we create for ourselves in the 3 4 years that we've been in the preparation phase is very difficult to get out, to start, talking to people, start the whole socializing that was once given up for
Yeah,
the purpose of the exam, that becomes a challenge for a lot of aspirants and
I
ex-aspirants.
agree. I
So,
agree.
was that something, or were there other challenges that you faced when you moved on from the preparation phase?
I think there are a lot of challenges going forward, moving out of the UPSC preparation phase because, first of all, so it was not just the 2 years that I gave to UPSC,
Right.
right? It was from 2013 onwards till 2016. Before UPSC, I was also giving master's entry exams, I was giving SSC, I was
Hmm.
giving RBI grade B. I was going crazy looking for a government job. So just to come out of that mentality of being a student to being a business owner was quite difficult. And
Hmm.
I think it's only now that, in the last 2 years that I've sort of got some knack or some semblance of how to run a business, and come on my
Hmm.
own, to be on my own as a businesswoman, so to say. But just that student mentality and just overcoming that and taking full responsibility
Hmm.
for changing your life and for doing something completely on your own, that was the biggest challenge.
Right.
Was a very big challenge. And the thing about being an artist is you're always surrounded by imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome will always haunt you till the time you're
Hmm.
an artist. You will always think that you're not good at what you do. The only way out is through. You have to make peace with imposter syndrome. You have to calm it down. You have to keep it aside and just focus on your work, put in your practice, keep putting little stories here and there, keep spreading joy, and just trust the universe. So I think for me, the biggest challenge was transitioning from being a student where people treat you very nicely at home and they're like, अच्छा अभी बच्चा
Hmm.
prepare कर रहा है, कोई बात नहीं, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. They they pamper you and stuff because you're
Right.
preparing
Yeah.
for the UPSC. And this is a very big problem with the Indian society. I don't understand why people give respect and so much respect to people who are preparing for UPSC. They haven't cleared it. They should put some sense into people's brain that, Bache, why are you giving 4 years or 5 years of your life to this exam? There are other things to
Hmm.
do in life. Instead of pampering them and telling them कि कोई बात नहीं बेटा अगले साल हो जाएगा, क्यों? Why are you giving them so much respect and this thing? Give them a pat at their head and just tell them अगर वो नहीं हो रहा तो कुछ और करो. Don't waste your life
Hmm.
on this stupid exam. It's just one exam. Move on. So I think that's one of the major problems with the Indian society. We need to just
Hmm.
stop giving it too much more importance than what it deserves.
Yeah, that is so true. So coming to the controversial territory now, and then we'll end with closing remarks. Uh, what do you think about this exam and multiple other exams in our country needs to go through change? Because a lot of students in India, in fact, uh, suicide cases are extremely high amongst the student community, and aspirants being one part of that community. So it
Right.
is a mental health burden. So what is it that you think that the exam structure needs an overhaul in? What needs to change?
That's a very big question to ask to somebody like me.
Right.
I haven't really been
As an
to
aspirant, what do you think? As an ex-aspirant, what
as
was your opinion on it?
aspirant. I think maybe the course structure can be lightened up or more spread
Hmm.
out or more concise instead of making somebody study 10, 15 different subjects for one single exam. I think the course structure could be such that maybe you just have to prepare for the prelims first and then you get some maybe 6 to 8 months just to prepare for mains or something of that sort
Hmm.
where you don't focus, you don't end up giving your life to an exam. Just or
Right.
an alternate could be that you make it so concise that nobody has to study 15 subjects. You just have to study 5 core subjects, and all the questions will be asked from that. Somebody in my coaching, I remember to this day, they remarked that UPSC is not whatever its full form is. You can whatever I don't even remember what UPSC full form is right now. I'm just baffling, but it said that UPSC stands for Unpredictable Service Commission, because the exam structure is just so unpredictable. Even after preparing and studying so many books, you still can't predict what kind of questions will come in your exam. I think if you just to for me now, when I think about it, it's just so crazy to give your life to an exam like this, where it's not even sure that you will make it through. 5 lakh people give it every year, and only 1,000 people, correct me if I'm wrong, they make it through, right?
Right.
5 lakh
Yeah.
to 1,000. What is that ratio? Why don't you pick up a skill or a career where the odds are in your favor? Why do we have to become doctors and engineers and lawyers? Why we already have millions of those in the country? Why don't we have more artists who are hundreds and just thousands in number? Why don't we become good writers? Again, thousands in numbers maybe. So it's just about believing in yourself and just taking that chance. A lot of people, when they join the workshop, they're like, oh, but we are not as creative as you. Believe me, I was not born with a creative bone. I just honed it. It's a skill that I have developed. That's why I haven't deleted any of my posts from 2016 also. If you are patient
Right.
enough to scroll down Delhi Doodler's feed, you will see what kind of artworks I used to make back then and what kind of work I'm doing now. And the reason I have kept them is to remind me of my journey, and to remind, to prove it to people that you don't need a creative bone. You just need to hone your skill. You just need to be interested day in and day out in what you do. I'm bloody interested in calligraphy. I'm bloody interested in all the scripts that I'm following: Devanagari, copperplate, brush calligraphy. I'm thoroughly interested in them. They just intrigue the hell out of me. So I keep reading about them. I keep seeing new things and I keep trying them out. If they work out, sometimes they don't work out. So just stay on one thing and keep yourself interested in that. Just study that like you would study for UPSC.
I think those are very helpful words. And in addition to that, if there's something you'd like to tell aspirants, ex-aspirants who are moving on uh, from the whole UPSC jamboree to something else, anything that you'd like to tell them? Am I audible? Are we in bad network?
Yes, now I'm
Bad
back.
network.
Yes,
So
yes, now
sorry.
I'm back. Sorry. So your
Yeah.
question was,
My question was anything. So you mentioned how like keep doing it, discovering, and keep at it, believe in yourself, and trust things will happen. So from there, what is there anything else that you want to add or tell people who are looking to move on from their UPSC preparation journey to any other endeavor?
I mean, I would just say be practical in your approach, be realistic. If you cannot afford to be philosophical, be realistic for sure. Google what are the current skills in demand. No, I'm being serious, because for some people, for me, my safety bracket was my family. To be honest, I did not really need to work, and to this day, I don't really need to work for the sake of money. I work because I'm actually interested in this and I want to make something out of myself. So for a lot of people, they do not have that safety bracket, and they do have expenses to take care of. They are answerable at home. So if you cannot afford to be philosophical, if you cannot afford to while away a lot of time, then be practical, be realistic, be focused. Google what are the current skills in demand, pick up one skill, give it 1 year of your time, and make the best use out of it. That's, I mean, if you can study for UPSC, you can study anything else. That's my 2 cents to wind up this conversation. But I do want to say that I think there were some questions in the comments, so if you could just
Right.
go through and see if there's something interesting that I haven't yet answered, I would love to.
Anyone else wanting to ask anything, please put down in the comments. I will just. Uh, I think a lot of them are appreciating your answer on how to find out your why. That seems to have resonated with a lot of people. But questions as such, I'm not able to see anyone, anything, any question that you like to ask in particular.
I think I saw
Can you
one
please put it
question in the
down?
beginning where somebody said that at what point did it become from a hobby to a profession? At what point did you realize that it became a profession? I think
Hmm.
for me, that has got to do with the fact that I started getting client work regularly at that point, and
Hmm.
people came to expect some serious work, serious quality of work out of me. And when that started happening month on month, that's when I realized that okay, it is not a hobby anymore, it has become a profession of sorts, you know. When you're starting as a hobby and you're making work artworks for your friends or family, they don't really care too much about the quality, they just want to encourage you, you know. And even if
Hmm.
people are paying for it in the beginning, they're like, okay, she's a hobbyist and I'm hardly paying anything for this, so they're not very strict about quality. But as you keep improving and you keep getting better work, you keep getting work worth more value, people do expect serious quality from you, right? So I think for me,
Hmm.
there was no one particular day when that happened, one particular moment when it happened, but it was the fact that you know, I started getting continuous and more regular client work, you know. And
Hmm.
I could confidently say that if nothing, I'm able to make 30, 40, 50,000, whatever it was at the time. I can make that much for me, you know. So when your income is more regular, you feel more confident, you feel more stable mentally, and you're able to convince your parents that yes, this is my job, this is my career now.
Right, great. So I found that comment. Is there any other comment question? There's something,
So
just a
there's
sec.
just one question which has just popped up. It
Yeah.
says, can you just read yeah, UPSC
UPSC
and
and
all
all other
other,
competition. Hmm.
yeah, competitive exams are uncertain, and we develop this mindset of fearing our future. How do you transition to a skill mindset? Exactly. I think this is the biggest bane in India. This is the biggest problem with Indian students, with Indian people in general. We are not brought up with the skill mentality. Even though our Prime
Right.
Minister has launched the skill centric
Skill
programs
India.
and I do not think we that mentality has unfortunately still changed. I always keep saying this one line: skills pay the bills. It's not your job that's paying the bill, it's your core skill that is paying the bill. So, what you
Hmm.
need to focus instead of getting a job is to learn a skill and make it such that nobody else does it better than you, or at least convince
Hmm.
people that you know that nobody does it better than me. You have to fake it till you make it. You have to believe in yourself. Even if you don't, you have to fake it. You have to give so much, just act with so much confidence and put in the work
Right.
so much that you can confidently say, I will give you this. I will do this for you like nobody else will. You know, people love seeing confident people. Sometimes I shake in my boots when I get a client work which is beyond my capacity. It pushes me
Hmm.
beyond my normal capacity. I shake in my boots, but I'm so confident in telling them, don't worry, it will be done. You
Hmm.
know, so sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. I think it was a comment that Rihanna also made at some party. I was just seeing a reel one day. I'm like, learn from Rihanna, man. Fake it till you make it. grow that confidence, grow your skills, and that transition has to be a personal journey. To answer your question now, moving on from Rihanna, sorry, I got distracted. That transition is a very personal journey. Do not expect the government to support you, do not expect anybody else to support you. Yes, it is uncertain. The future is uncertain for everyone, especially after the last 2 years. I mean, people had invested lakhs and crores of rupees into their ventures, and they just lost it in 1 second, because of the pandemic. So the future belongs to nobody. The future belongs to those who are confident enough to own it. That's all. So that transition of going from the job milegi mentality to the skill mindset is your personal journey. Do not expect anybody to reward you. Do not expect the society or the government to support you. Do it for your own sake. Just do it because it's rewarding personally to you. At the end of the day, you can sleep peacefully, you can sleep tightly, and you can feel good about yourself. That I look at where I was 6 years ago and look at where I am now. It's a personal journey, you have to develop a personal reward system. Do this for yourself, for nobody else. I'm not doing this for my parents, I'm not doing this for my family, I'm doing this for myself. So it's a personal thing. You have to do it for yourself. Don't
I
expect
think there's one
anybody.
last question. Yes. How to beat procrastination, or how do you do it usually?
I am the biggest procrastinator in the world, believe it or not. I do come across as somebody who is very self-motivated and at it at all the times, but there
I think
are
it's the
days.
fake it till you make it.
It's the
Uh,
fake it, make it. Exactly. You don't see it, right? But I do. Ask my sister, she will tell you I'm the biggest procrastinator in the world. I will have 10 things on my list and do only 3 or 4 in a day. But I think there's a different, and there are so many nice YouTube videos that you can watch on this. Instead of me answering it very half bakedly, I would highly recommend that you go on YouTube, look at 4 or 5 videos. They will inspire the heck out of you to switch from becoming an active procrastinator to an active human being. People like Ali Abdul have such nice videos. People like, I'm sorry, I think he's the one I'm currently obsessed with. So, but do
yeah, Ali
YouTube.
Abdal, the
He's the biggest.
productivity hack guru. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's so many productivity hacks. Read a few books, watch YouTube. But again, I think at the core of whatever everyone says is the fact that you have to do this for yourself. If you're doing something for somebody else, you lose your motivation after a point of time. But if you're doing it for yourself and to feel good about yourself, then it gives you a different dopamine hit, so to say. That kind of rush that you get from fulfilling a task, ticking off that to-do list at the end of the day, that is second to none. So when you feel good, you do good. It's a cycle that keeps repeating itself.
Right. So I hope that answers your question, Akanksha, and you have some food for thought. Uh, okay. All right. So, loved what you said about how things are going to be uncertain for most of the world. So I think it's something that UPSC aspirants and ex-aspirants can, take some solace in, that uncertainty is everywhere, and we just have to deal with it like everyone else has to deal with it. So that's how we move on. Right. So I think we've had a very, very productive, fruitful, fun session. A lot of things to take away for a lot of ex-aspirants, aspirants, me, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And
Having this
yes,
conversation
we will.
with you. To wind up, I do want to appreciate your venture, Shows Beyond UPSC, and I say this with utmost regard and respect. I do not mean anything bad about UPSC, or I do not think that it's wrong, or it's not a good exam to give. But be clear on your purpose, and if you think that you are not meant for it, or if you want help transitioning from it, please reach out to Shores Beyond UPSC. And I think you guys are doing a wonderful job connecting people, giving them a purpose. This is precisely what you're doing. You're giving them a new purpose in life. You're giving them a new why to look forward to, and why they should still be alive and kicking ass every single day. So I think what you're doing is amazing. It's a commendable. Great job.
Thank you so much. And we hope that a lot of us transition into other worlds. Some of us take up art as well. And maybe, and I'm going to do one of your workshops soon because actually that's how I chanced upon your work.
Okay.
It was because I was interested while preparing in some brush calligraphy that I had watched. So that's how I, found you. So I will connect with
I
you over there.
I was saying I trust the universe to connect me with the right people at the right time for the right purpose.
Proof enough. So we will have a lot of ex-aspirants also maybe coming to you for picking up art for, if nothing, for the mental health benefits that art has, and
Absolutely.
for a bunch of other things also. So thank you so much, Sadhika, for doing this,
Thank
and we
you.
wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
See you. See you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in.